Hello and welcome to pmclounge.com. Today we are discussing the estimate costs process. And as always, if you would want to read an article on estimate costs rather than watch a video, first link in the description is going to take you to the related article over at pmclounge.com. Second link is the entire playlist of the cost management knowledge area, all the videos that we have covered. So that is also very, very important. Anyways, let's get started and let's understand the estimate costs process. Now, the first thing is estimate costs is exactly what you think when you read or hear or even write the word estimate costs. You are actually estimating costs in this process. Now, this is the second process in the cost management knowledge area, and this belongs to the planning process group. Actually, let's take a look at the Pgk mapping. So this is the Pgk mapping. As you can see, we are in the project cost management knowledge area, and estimate costs. This is where it lies. This is what we are talking about today. As you can see, it belongs to the planning process group. There are three processes in the planning process group, and there's one process in the monitoring and controlling process group. So a total of four processes only in the cost management knowledge area. But don't take this lightly. Don't consider cost management knowledge area as something which is lighter than other knowledge areas, because there is a lot to study in this knowledge area, which we are going to cover. Let's get started with estimate costs first for the sake of this video. Okay, so from definition perspective, this is the process of estimating funds required. Remember, it is estimate costs process, right? So this is where you estimate the funds required to complete project activities and achieve the project goals, achieve the project objectives, right? So what are the funds that you would need to do so? That is exactly what you do in estimate costs process. Now, but before you can actually estimate cost, what you need is who's doing what work and how long it will take. And you find this from the scope management and schedule management knowledge area. That is the reason why in your PMBOK guide, if you can see, the scope management knowledge area and the schedule management knowledge area are covered before, are taught to you before the cost management knowledge area. Because when you come to cost management knowledge area, when you come to this process of estimate costs, you already need to know what works need to be done, that is what's in scope, and how long it will take, that is the schedule of how long the activity is going to take. Now let's take an example. So let's say you want to get your requirements documentation done for the project, and you realize that you would need a business analyst to write the requirement specification document. Now, business analyst, when you meet the business analyst, he or she tells you that they would need help from two associate business analysts, and all three of them are going to complete the requirements documentation in 2 weeks. So that way, you now know who's doing the work, what work it is completing the requirements documentation, and how long it'll take, that is 2 weeks. Based on that, and based on the charges of business analysts, right, based on what they charge, their fees, is how you can estimate the cost for this activity of completing the requirements documentation. So that is the reason why you should be very clear in terms of scope and in terms of schedule when before coming to the estimate costs process. Gathering this data, gathering the entire data that you need to estimate cost is actually the inputs to the estimate cost process. Whatever we just talked about, right? These are the actual inputs to the estimate cost process. So if these are the inputs, what are the tools and techniques and what are the outputs from this process? Let's take a look at that as well. Before we move ahead, I'd like to remind you pmclaunch.com/resources is where you can go. We have listed our favorite and the most useful PMP preparation resources there. Now let's look at some of the tools and techniques that are used as part of this process. Now remember, there are several tools and techniques of the estimate costs process. We are not going to cover all of them in this video. We are only looking at 4 of the tools and techniques which we have already discussed in the schedule management knowledge area, and they are similar in this knowledge area as well, in the cost management knowledge area as well. So these are four tools and techniques which are common to these two knowledge areas. The remaining techniques we are going to cover in future videos. Second link in the description is going to take you to the entire playlist of cost management knowledge area, and that is going to contain all the videos and all the tools and techniques of this process and all other processes as well of cost management knowledge area. Now, these four that we are discussing, we have created separate videos and articles on these. The links to the videos, separate videos for these four, will also be available in description in case you want to understand them in further details. Now, let's look at the four tools and techniques which are common between schedule management knowledge area and cost management knowledge area. Number one is analogous estimation, which means using similar previous projects to take reference from. So if you have done, let's say, construction project of 10-story building already, and then your next project is also construction of a 10-story building, you can make use of the estimates that you have done in the previous project in your current project as well, right? So that is known as analogous estimation. Second is parametric estimation. That is where you use a variable like lines of code or LOC. Let's say, for example's sake, let's say per line of code your company charges $1 per line of code, and if the software is something that you estimate will take 1000 lines of code, then the cost of the software that your company should cite is going to be 1000 US dollars. So that is parametric estimation. That is where you're using a variable. Now, next is 3-point estimates. The PERT method, that is P plus 4M plus O divided by 6. This is the formula for 3-point estimates. P stands for pessimistic estimate, M stands for most likely estimates, O stands for optimistic estimate. So these are the estimates that you basically obtain from your project team, and then you divide them by 6 to get a value which is your 3-point estimate. And finally, reserve analysis. There are two types of reserves. One is contingency reserve. That is where you take buffers for known unknowns. There are risks that you already know of, but you don't know if they are going to materialize or not. And that is why you have some contingency reserve in place. Money, that is buffer. And then you've got management reserves. These are reserves for unknown unknowns. So these are with the management. They keep a certain amount of money just in case something unknown shows up in during the course of your project. Like I said earlier, all these four are discussed in detail. The links to the separate videos for these four tools and techniques are available in the description. But wait, here's a good question that you should ask. How can same tools be applicable to both time management knowledge area as well as cost management knowledge area? How is that possible? How are we using similar tools and techniques to calculate both time as well as cost? The thing is, at the end of the day, the four tools and techniques that we saw in the previous slide, they are known as estimating techniques. And in both the knowledge areas, schedule management knowledge area as well as cost management knowledge area, what you are essentially doing is estimating the time it will take and estimating the cost it will take. So since these four, the ones that we discussed, are estimating techniques, you can use this for both time as well as cost. Now, I'll give you one more example which is going to clarify this point further. But before that, you should note that not all techniques, like I said, there are several other techniques in the estimate cost process itself, which we have not covered and which we are going to cover later. So not all techniques are same between these two knowledge areas. So of course, there are certain techniques which are specific to estimating time, and then there are certain techniques which are specific to estimating cost. We have not discussed them in this video. The four that we have discussed are the ones which are common between the two. And like I said, I'll give you an example of why we are using similar techniques, and that is in your real life. Let's say you are planning a project. Let's say you want to renovate the kitchen. What do you think about? you think about the certain amount of time it is going to take, so that you know how long you have to order for food from outside because your kitchen is under renovation, right? And how much money is it going to take? So even on your personal projects, the two things that you think of often together is the amount of time and the amount of money required to complete those projects, right? So that is the reason why time and cost estimating techniques are pretty similar and they overlap. That's all that we had in this video. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever we upload new videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to check out the website pmclounge.com, your number one free PMP resource. Thank you.